Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be discussing plans. Plans are a element of Parley that you pretty much will run into every round. So a plan is basically a method of enacting the resolution. So you have the resolution that's given to you, usually a body of government, for example, the United States federal government, should do something. So, how is that going to be accomplished? For example, if you said the United States federal government should significantly increase investment into solar energy, how would you go about doing that in round? So, the plan really has many different parts, but overall, plans are usually based off the resolution. They're usually have the resolution with the word should replaced by the word will, but there are some other adjustments you can make. So for this one, I'm going to be using the resolution. The United States federal government should significantly increase investment into solar energy. So I can go onto the resolution right here, and every debate there's resolution. The app supports it, and then neg argues against it. The resolution is kind of like the base of the plan. So next you have the actual like plan text itself. It's when the app gives you details about how, in what specific method they'll affirm the resolution. So for me, I can create the plan. The United States federal government will add $50 billion to the current solar energy research fund. I don't think that's a real thing, but just for this example, let's pretend it is. So that is a way of increasing investment. We are putting more money in something that's meant to be put towards solar energy. So that's the plan text. It's the overall kind of like the summary of a plan, like what's going on. Under that, you have 5 major parts of a plan called planks. You don't need to have all of them in your like a typical round unless you think it's absolutely important that they have to. The actor is who is passing the plan, who is committing this action. Is it the United States federal government? Is it the People's Republic of China? What is it? Or who is it, more likely? Who as in what governmental body? You can't say Bill Gates will pass the plan. It usually has to be a governmental body unless on the slight chance that is specified otherwise in the resolution. So next is the enforcer. Who enforces the plan? Who takes care of all the other actions and who actually like does the like enforcement of the plan? This one is much more uncommon, whereas the actor you'll see in every round almost. The enforcer is much more unlikely to be seen because enforcers are usually just implied and they're usually just extra detailed because no one argues the enforcer except in like very, very fringe cases. But it's a good thing to know just in case someone asks you. Next is the implementation. Where and how is the plan implemented? So usually for implementation, you can just say normal ways of means. That's until you get like a plan where you think that implementation should be changed and like it absolutely is important that you change the implementation. There should be no other need for changing it from normal means. Normal means essentially means that it's just the way that we normally, as a government or as a governmental body, how the government normally passes that type of plan. For example, solar energy, they'd usually pass it through a bill or through the next congressional budget, and we just like go normal ways and means because that type of thing is way too complex to like fully explore within the time constraints that you have. Usually the first speech is 7 minutes, which means that like you definitely don't have the time to read your advantages and also go into the entire intricacies of how the government works. Where the plan is implemented, I don't think in most cases you will ever need this. Unless it's asked, you will never ever need this because it's either already implied or you will like say it in your advantages and disadvantages. Next, onto funding. Funding is some a plank that you will see a lot, because without funding, there's a lot of disadvantages and advantages you guys can't run. So, but in most cases, even though funding is really prevalent in debate, you'll only see it as normal ways of means, which is how do we normally fund such projects? For the United States federal government, that would most likely mean taxpayer money and other budgets. Those would be the normal way of funding the plan. Some people have specialized funding because they want to make special arguments about how that type of funding is good. For example, if you say, we will deduct it from the military budget because the military budget's way too high right now. That is a source of funding. It's a valid source of funding. And you will have they will have special reasons about why that type of funding is good. But for the most part, you don't need to specify more than normal ways of means. Finally is time frame. Time frame is when does your plan take place? Most people should be using as soon as possible, because your plan passing as soon as possible is the easiest time frame to play it on, and there really is no need to specify a time frame other than this, because it's really arbitrary. It doesn't matter for a lot of them, such as like solar energy. Whether we pass it now or we pass it in 2 years, it'll still lead to solar development. So it doesn't really matter, except in some fringe scenarios, for example, election scenarios, where you talk about how the election is important and how the election will influence a certain plan. For example, say like if President A is elected, he will not like the solar plan, and then he will try and pass other things that are more harmful to the environment because he just hates the environment and he doesn't want anyone investing in solar. And for those types of plans and those fringe cases where that type of plan is needed, then you can specify your time frame. But really, the only thing you should be specifying as not a normal ways and means or as soon as possible is really your actor. Your actor should be saying, you should be saying like the specific actor, which is usually the United States federal government or some other country. And you should probably know all 5 of these before you walk into the round. You don't need to say all of these, because if like that's just an extra amount of time you're spending on just specifying something that literally will probably have no use later in round. So yeah, overall, you should be specifying most likely actor, the how part of the implementation, funding, and time frame. And the last 3 would be normal ways of means or in time frame as soon as possible. And that's pretty much what a plan is. That's the summary of a plan. And within the plan, you have advantages, which is basically why is your plan a good idea. And if you want to learn about that, you can check out the other lecture about argument structure.